Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey there, this is James Valvis. I'm coming at you with a new FreeForm. That's where I just start to babble and see what happens. Sometimes it stays on the same topic and I go off for a half an hour about one single event. Sometimes it just wanders here and there to whatever interests my mind at the time, whatever catches my fancy. Usually I talk a little bit about the channel. I don't really have much to say about the channel right now, other than I've put everything into the Valvlog heading, but other than that, there's nothing really going on. It's all the same stuff. I bought the camera. The camera should be here in, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 days, whenever it is. And I got to charge it for 8 hours, and then I got to, format the disc, and then I'm going to do a review of my arcade machine. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably take it out on various walks and show people the neighborhood or whatever else I'm going to do with it. I probably have fun with it. There's a lot of things we do that are interesting and that people might enjoy, especially people in this area, people who have either been in the area and remember it, or people who are in the area presently who might be interested in just seeing, where we get our apple cider or whatever else. So I'm looking forward to that. I have my little phone camera, but that thing doesn't hold any kind of lengthy video. I tried to do a review of my machine on it, and I did like 40 minutes, and I was talking blah 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 blah, just like I'm doing now. And I went through the whole schmeal, and I showed everybody all parts of the wheel, and I was going to do like 2 or 3 part thing, 40 minutes a piece. And yeah, like half of it was my phone ran out of memory, and it just ran out of. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just whatever. So I'm just gonna do that some other time. Wait till like the camcorder comes, and I'll just do that. It won't be great video, it won't be great sound, but it'll be passable, it'll be serviceable, and it'll be watchable hopefully. And we'll play some games, and we'll have some fun and on this channel, as well as all the work. And I did the William Saroyan review, and I was looking forward to that. So it's more of a review of Saroyan himself than the just the book that I was reviewing. Is one of my favorite writers, one of my favorite characters in all of literature, and as far as writers go, somebody I admire. He's a big personality, Mr. Saroyan, and it wears a big personality wears on people, and I think that happened with Saroyan. He had such a big personality that it just kind of started to wear on people, and they started to say, "Yeah, you're just too much. You're a little too much. I prefer more laid back fare," and I get that sometimes. I'm kind of a big personality when you get to know me, and people say, "Wow, you're really you're kind of intense. I don't know if I want to deal with so much intensity," and that's all right. That's all right. We live in strange times. We live in strange times where people are really they talk the language of passion, but they don't really seem all that passionate to me. Or they get very passionate about very micromanaged things. Really passionate about how much I hate Donald Trump, but everything else. They're poets, but they have no passion for it at all. It's very obvious they have no passion for it. They don't talk about it. They don't think about it. They don't write about it. They don't do it. They don't even write poems that much. Also, these poets, and they write 5 poems a year. It's okay. I guess you can call yourself a poet in the same way. If I put a Band-Aid on my daughter, I can call myself a doctor. But it's not really accurate. It's not really something that you can really claim to have been doing with any kind of passion or any kind of big in a big way. Most poets I know, and this will probably get me in trouble. Everything gets me in trouble when I give an opinion, but it does seem like most of them are they're more into politics than they are into poetry. They're more politicians than they are poets. And it comes through in there, and you start to get the idea that some of these people became poets so that they could nail down an academic job. It was really never about the poetry. Well, maybe they liked it in the beginning, but after a while, really, the poetry was secondary. The job, that making a 60, 70, 80, 90, $120,000 job for, not doing a whole lot, teaching a few classes. That was really what drove them. I know some of the writers I know are just absolutely fantastic jobs. They're not necessarily the highest up in the academic world either. Some of them teach in a community college, or they, I think of them as far better writers, and they don't have to be in, they don't have to be at, the University of Iowa, or some of these higher lights. They just seem like they don't really care very much about the literary arts, and some of them who do seem to care about the literary arts just seem more, they don't even seem to care so much about the literary arts as their politics. And their politics is strewn through their whole literary oeuvre. Is that how you pronounce that? Oeuvre? I've never known. I mean, you could. One of the things about being a person who's learned through books rather than being around educated people, because I grew up with poor people, I grew up with lesser educated people. My mother dropped out of high school as a sophomore in high school to go have babies. My stepfather, he dropped out, I believe, as a freshman. He eventually got some correspondence courses, and he almost got enough so that he graduated high school, but he never did. My grandmother, she was grade school level education. My sister dropped out of high school, my older sister. My cousins mostly dropped out of high school. Most of the people I knew growing up were uneducated, or and they weren't book readers either. It wasn't like they were autodidacts like I am. They were completely divorced from the intellectual life. They lived day to day, going to work, usually at menial jobs, and they didn't have any kind of passion for any kind of reading. If they read anything, it was usually like horror comics or something like that, or maybe romance novels. Both my grandmothers loved romance novels. It was kind of odd because they were very different people, my grandmothers. One was just the most wonderful person I've ever known in my life, and the other was one of the most horrible people I've ever known in my life. Yet they both had shared this love of romance novels. So yeah, anyway, what am I thinking about right now? I'm thinking about, they just, I caught the tail end of it. I think the Supreme Court, it was either the Supreme Court or one of the courts lower than that, decided that you could share gun designs and gun blueprints for 3D printing guns. That it was constitutional to do that. That it was covered under the First and Second Amendments, and that it was covered under in other words, if you want to, you can share the prints and the schematics for building a gun in your home if you have a 3D printer. Now, 3D printers are printers that make things like, spoons and cups and knives and plates and little toys and things of that sort, stuff that's made out of plastic. Well, one of the things they can do is they can make a serviceable handgun. They're not usually very good at making, automatic guns, or they can't make something like a shotgun, something with a big caliber. But, a 22, something along that area, they can make that kind of gun. And so the gun control advocates have been trying to stop people from being able to get this information so that they can make these guns themselves, because obviously it skirts a lot of the protections that we have for gun control. So in other words, if you're one of those people who is barred, you're a felon, or some other reason you're not able to have a gun, You now have a constitutional right to own this particular material and to print your own gun. That's there's nothing to stop you from doing that. And now the people who are for gun control are miserable about this, and you don't see a lot of it on that side because they're not. The people who are for gun control are completely ignorant about guns and gun control in general. They don't know anything about guns. They just don't. They don't own guns. They've never fired a gun. They don't know what a gun does. That's why you can call a gun an assault gun, and they think it's, something worse than another gun. It's not an assault rifle, just because they don't know anything. They don't know. They barely could find the trigger on a gun. Most of these people, they just don't know guns at all. They don't know one gun from another. They don't know why a gun is, can do this or can do that, or what its challenges are, or what its advantages are. They don't know any of that stuff. I have one guy, was arguing with me about gun control, telling me that, some guns fire 1,000 bullets per second. 1,000 bullets a second. Imagine a clip that holds 1,000 bullets a second. 1,000 bullets, first of all. Just imagine that clip. But second of all, a magazine with 1,000 bullets. It'd be huge. But imagine the stream of bullets that would have to come out to be 1,000 bullets per second. It would be like a laser of bullets going out of the thing. And he said this stuff and it's just, as soon as somebody says that, you just don't talk about guns again. As soon as somebody says something like that, they should just shut up forever about guns. They don't know anything about guns. Why are you arguing about gun control when you know literally nothing about the subject? And I would say that about any subject. Why would you argue about any subject if you don't know anything about it? You don't know a thing about it. Stop. Stop talking about it. Stop. Just because you're sad some kids got shot at the school doesn't make you an expert on this subject. Shut up. Just shut up. You don't know anything. It's just, or go find out the information so that you don't come across as a complete idiot. Take the time to learn what the subject. Otherwise, you're just going to be a moron. But yeah, 3D printing guns allows people to, basically, that's the end of gun control. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been trying to tell people this was coming down the pike. That people will soon be able to make guns in their own homes the same way that we make bread in our own homes. The same way that we can make model cars in our own homes. You just can't stop it. The technology is there. It's already there. It's just waiting to be cheaper. That's all. It's just that right now there are 300 million guns in the country. 300 million, about that number. So you're never going to get them off the streets because there's just too many of them. And they're cheaper just to buy them as they are. You can go buy a reliable, decent handgun for about $500. You can actually get it probably cheaper than that. If you just want to just go out today and get yourself a handgun and you have no things stopping you from getting a handgun, you could just go out there, plop down $500, and within the requisite time that it takes to get these things, you would have a gun of a machine that works perfectly for $500. And the idea of going out and buying a 3D printing machine and then going 3D printing a gun and buying the ammunition and buying some of the other stuff that you needed to put together such a gun is it's more cost prohibitive to do that. But if you ever tried to make guns illegal, they would simply use this go around. They would just simply get 3D printers and they would go and just start printing guns. And so what's going to happen now is that even the small amount of gun control that we have now, even that is just going to become completely ineffective. You're a felon, you can still get a gun. If you're a crazy person, you can still get a gun. If you're a kid who wants to go out and shoot up a school, you can still get a gun. It's just the way it is. It's the same with any other technology that becomes, that you look at it and you say, gee, what are opioids? Opioids are a technology. You know, little pills don't grow on trees. You don't have hydrocodone trees, and where you go and pick out your little freaking pills and then you eat them and become addicted. That's a technology that made these things, and so it causes a problem. It causes a problem. You can put all kinds of stop on it, but what happens when people find out they can make hydrocodone at home? You know, you could try to regulate this stuff, but it doesn't ever work. It doesn't ever work. People who want to get these drugs will get them. Period. Always. Forever. So the best thing to do, the best thing you can do is educate people about stuff, and when it comes to guns, is to make sure that they are spread as widely as possible so that not only bad guys have them. You want to have as much gun coverage in the world as possible. You want to put doubt in the minds of bad people. You want to say, can I go into that house and rape and steal and pillage, or is that person going to be armed to the teeth and kill me? You want to have that. There's a reason why these mass shooters go after schools and go after post offices and go after places where they know, workplaces places where they work, where they know there's no people with guns. There's a reason they go after those places. They know they're relatively safe, at least till the cops get there. They've got about 15-20 minutes before those phone calls get to the police. So they can go to that nightclub because nobody in that nightclub has a gun. Not allowed to have one. Nobody in that school has a gun. Not allowed to have one. And that's why they don't choose gun shows to shoot people. They don't choose police stations. They don't choose army bases. They don't choose any place that has people who are armed, because they know if they did that, they might kill 1 or 2 people, but that's it. They're going to be put down, and they're going to be put down fast. It's just simple common sense. And so the thing to do when you're facing this kind of situation, you're going to be facing a world in which guns are available to just about everybody, is to make sure that they are available, especially to the people who are not going to be irresponsible with them, and are going to use them in a defensive way to stop people who would choose to be irresponsible with them. I mean, that's the price of freedom. I wish it was different. I'm not entirely sure. Some guy I follow on YouTube, Sticks Hexenhammer 666, which is kind of a weird guy for a Christian to follow, but he's actually a very astute young man. He's thrilled by this ruling. He just thinks it's great. He thinks it's awesome that, there's greater liberty in the world. I'm a big pro Second Amendment guy. I'm not entirely sure that I want guns being easily accessible to people who have proven themselves to be, jerks. I'm not sure that's great for the world. I don't necessarily know that that's a good thing. But it is the world. The difference between a progressive and a quote-unquote conservative is often the ability to face the truth, to face the reality of a situation. In a perfect world, and progressives always want to live in that utopian perfect world. In a perfect world, nobody would need a gun. I have no desire to either own a gun, shoot a gun, and certainly use a gun on another human being. That is not something I ever want to do. Not even somebody who's a bad guy. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to take somebody's life. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to have that on my conscience. I don't want to go to my maker and say I had to end this person's life because he was a threat. I don't want to do it. I'd rather just get through the world not having ever killed anybody, which is what I've done thus far in life. And I think, that would be perfect for me to live that way, where I really believe in the non-aggression principle. I don't like violence. I don't want to hurt people. It's just not something that I think is valuable in the world. But if I had to, if I was given no choice, I guess I would. But I don't want to own a gun. I don't want to shoot a gun. I don't want to shoot guns at people. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's fun. I've never thought it was fun. When I was in the Army, I didn't think shooting a gun was fun. I think it was, it's just not something I like to do. It's a dangerous thing to own and have. You can die. Whenever you can die from something, it's not fun. I don't find it fun. I don't find it fun to run around with something that can kill me. It's worrisome. It's just problematic. Same with cars. I don't find cars fun. Some people, I have so much fun racing my car. Why? Why? You can die racing your car. It's not fun. I have fun doing things that aren't going to kill me. Ever. So, yeah, so that's going on. I mean, that is happening where, the gun control crowd, they are living in the 1940s or something. They think that you're still in the Wild West where everybody turn in your guns. They're going to be locked up here until you leave town, that kind of guard. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Gun control is not going to happen for you. It's not in the way you're thinking it's going to happen, where people's guns are confiscated and the Second Amendment is overturned. It's not going to happen. It would be a disaster if it did happen. It's just, like I said, the difference between a progressive and a conservative is often how they just see the world. I mean, they're just not living in reality. You're not living in reality if you think that gun control is going to happen in this country, especially, but even across the world. It's just not going to happen. It's too easy to get a gun, import a gun, sneak a gun across, borders. It's too easy to manufacture a gun now, even in your own home. It's just not going to happen. So we have to find other solutions, and we need the freaking left to just stop being idiots. They need to stop being idiots, learn the material, learn about guns, learn about the subject before you spout off emotion. And that's what all this is. The entire left has been overrun simply by emotion. They are ruled by their emotions. They don't think at all. They don't research. They don't do any kind of study of the subject. They just go and they emote. Kids are killed, take everybody's guns. That's the extent of their thinking. It doesn't work that way. We're not living in that world anymore. It's not possible. The genie is out of the bottle. It's gone. Even if it was possible 50 years ago, and it probably wasn't, but even if it was possible then, it's not possible now. Not in America. Maybe on a small island like Hawaii, or a small island like the Philippines, or a small island like Japan, or a small island like Great Britain, you can get away with that. Because you can seal off all the avenues to the country. You can say, you can inspect every ship and make sure that these guns don't get in there. But then you see people come in with, and it's just a rise in knife attacks. There's no guns to stop the knife people, so they just get good at knives and they go around and kill people with knives. And what are you going to do if you're a 72-year-old lady and some freaking 19-year-old with a knife comes at you? Overpower him? With what? How? He's going to take everything he wants from you, right down to your life. Everything, with just his little pocket knife. And it's just that way. So this idea, the left, I mean, I don't want to make this whole channel about how horrible the left is, but they completely fail to understand the implications. There's two things. They complain about the results of their own philosophy. It's one of the problems with the left. You cannot de-Christianize the entire world and then be sad over the fact that people run around killing each other. You want to take away all the moral underpinnings that would stop somebody from going into a school and shooting everybody. You want to take that away, and you want to laugh at that, and you want to mock it and call it stupid. And then you want to say, oh, but they don't go into school and kill people. Well, why not? Why shouldn't they? Life is nothing but a big joke anyway. There's no God. It's all just morally relative. Whatever you feel like doing, do it. If it feels good, do it. YOLO, you only live once. So go out and you do you. You have that philosophy, and then you say, well, why are people going into the Pulse nightclub and shooting a bunch of homosexuals? Well, because why not? That's why not. Well, then let's take everybody's gun, but that doesn't work. And you want to, you want to cut off the material that allows them to do horrendous acts, but it won't work. That's not going to work either. So the only thing you can do is go backwards and say, we need to have the same moral standards that built up Western civilization. Maybe you shouldn't have thrown that out to begin with. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe all that stuff and looking at Christians and saying, you moral busybodies and all the rest of it. Look, virtue matters. It matters in a man. It matters in his family. It matters in his society. Virtue matters. Theology matters. Doctrine matters. You say, there's no difference between these Christians and Muslims. Okay, go live in a Muslim country and tell me there's no difference. You're a female. You think it's so cool to say, there's no Christians are just as theocratic as Muslims. Go ahead and try it. Go ahead, go over there. Spend a couple of weeks over there and see how you like it. No, not a couple of weeks. Make it good. A couple of years. Spend a couple of years over there. And if they don't cut off your head for doing something that they don't like, you can come back and kiss the ground as you land in America, in this Christian country, or what's left of post-Christian country, the remnants, the vapors of a Christian country. You can kiss the ground of it. It's a weird world, man. It's a weird world where, everything is turned upside down. It's turned upside down. I was looking at this one thing where transsexual, this couple where this transsexual kid ran away, and they went looking for it. They sent the cops looking for him, and they're like, our daughter is missing. Our daughter is missing. And of course, the daughter's not a daughter. The daughter is a son. So they're looking for a girl. These people were so brainwashed. They're so into their virtue signaling that they put the safe return of their child second to the virtue signaling that they had to do to say that this biologically male person was a female. That's how messed up the left has become. That's how messed up they are. They were so into themselves and into their own vanity that they would do that. Now, there was nothing more important to me than the safety of my daughter. Nothing. Not my own life. Nothing. Nothing is more important than that. So, for somebody to do something like that, that's just bizarre. And that's the kind of world we're living in. Everything is upside down. Everything is, G.K. Chesterton once said that when you get rid of the big virtues, the big virtues, what happens is you make a mountain of the small virtues. You get rid of the important virtues like prudence and tolerance and honesty and that kind of stuff. You get rid of that stuff, and what takes over is stupid little virtues like cleanliness and whether you're using plastic straws or not. That's the one, right? In California, it's a big deal now. They don't care if they invite people, homeless, into their communities, and they crap all over the place. But good God, don't use a plastic straw. They'll hand out syringes. They'll hand out syringes to drug addicts and say, go and be you. You do you. But don't be you if you're using a plastic straw, because then we're going to have to ankle tackle you and taser you and maybe give you the full flogging treatment. So, I get a lot of slack for these opinions, but I'll tell you what. And once this hysteria is over, this left-wing hysteria is going to end. It will not keep. It can't keep. because it doesn't comport to common sense or decency. It just doesn't. And eventually, people are going to say enough. I don't know what kind of tragedy is going to take for that to happen. It usually does take tragedy. You know, there's no Solzhenitsyn for the, in the Soviet Union without the gulags. It takes something like that often to derail a society that's gone wrong like that. And so I fear that we're going, as a society, we're going to have to experience something of that nature before we turn around completely. And these people are, turned back. And they're shamed in the way they deserve to be shamed. Later I'm going to have a talk, a opinion about a couple of things. There's going to be the Yoko Ono poem, and then the what the heck is the woman, I guess she's a woman, professor at Fresno State who has decided that all white professors should, editors of literary journals should cease to be employed or occupy jobs of that nature, because of the Nation published a poem she didn't like, and I'll get into that poem too, and the little weaselly guy who wrote it, and the Nation's groveling apology for publishing it. It's just a freak show. It's a horror show. What's going on out there? I mean, it's just stunning that that this is going on in the literary world. That's my field. That's what I know most about. And what is going on there is usually just the sign of the times of what's coming into the world. And because it's the avant-garde, it's the intellectuals. This is what they're thinking. This is what they're dreaming up for the rest of us. And if we don't stop it there, it will take over like a cancer, as all these safe spaces and all this garbage has taken over in places. When you look at Google firing people for saying, maybe we don't need to hate white men so much. When you see that kind of garbage happening, this is all coming. And ultimately, it may not be stopped peacefully. I mean, I hate to say that, because I hate violence. I've been pretty clear about that. Non-aggression principle. I don't want violence at all. But I'm telling you right now that it may come to violence, because you cannot turn these people back. You can't argue with them, because they don't. Everything that you say that's reasonable, they simply turn it around and say, you're not entitled to have your reasonable opinion because of who you are. That's their argument for everything now. Since you come from a place of privilege and a place of hierarchical superiority, your opinion is therefore invalid, and therefore whatever I say goes. That's their entire argument, and they can use it for everything. They can use it. It doesn't matter what the argument is. They can always throw that in as their counter argument. It's a template that they use over and over and over again. You're a mean white man, is what one guy said to Jordan Peterson. And that's it. That's their argument. And they can use it every time. They can even use it against people who are not white men or white women. They can use it. They can use it just to say that you're a race traitor, or you're something else, or you're privileged in some other way. You're straight. You're cisgendered. Now, or you're a Christian, or whatever it is that they can latch onto to dismiss you. Theirs is a politics of dismissal, where you are dismissed immediately because you don't agree with them. The minute you disagree with them, that is grounds to dismiss you. And as long as that is their ideology, you can't argue with them. You can't get anywhere by arguing with them. And then you can, what's left if you can't argue it out and you can't reason it out, then the only alternative to that is violence. You're either going to accept their dictates across the board, or you're going to have to get violent. Those are the two options after argument fails. And so The only thing left to do then is, hope to God that you can convince enough reasonable people on that side, not on our side, not on this, the classical liberal / libertarian / conservative side, but on the left side, enough reasonable people over there to say, you know what, this is going to end badly for you, not necessarily for me. And it's not going to end well for me either. This kind of battle never ends well for anybody, but it is really going to end badly for you. Because ultimately, these people will turn their ire on you. If they get through us, they go for you. You think you're a white guy and you can be an ally to these people and they'll just be nice to you? It is not going to happen. They are going to come for you and they are going to slaughter you. That's what's going to happen. They are just working up their ability to get the power so that they don't need you anymore. And this is true if you're a white woman, if you're a gay man. It's almost, you almost have to fit every one of their identitarian movements before you're safe. So you have to be a gay, you have to be a black, lesbian, Muslim. I don't even know how those are possible to meet together, but a black, lesbian, Muslim, and then you might be safe if you're that. For now, and then you'll be, then it'll be, you're not a dark enough black, or you're not a lesbian enough lesbian, or you put too much emphasis on your lesbianism and not enough on your ethnicity, on your blackness, or you do, and it just, there's just no way to live that way. It's just a horror show. And we have to convince people on that side that you just can't. It's horrible. It's a horrible way to live. Nobody wants to live in that world. Nobody. It's just a descent into madness. And so, and it's one reason not to give up your gun too, because not only are they going to have, criminals running out there with 3D printed guns, but you have all these other people who have decided that you're not a good person simply because you were born a certain way. And because history was the way it was. Anyway, this has gone on too long. I'm supposed to be doing these like 15-20 minutes, and I'm like doing double that. I get going, and that's it. But I do thank you for listening. It's always an honor for me if you spend time listening to my stuff. Some of my thoughts might be challenging to you, and if so, I have more respect for you than if you agree with me on everything. Because it means that you're open to new ideas and you're open to challenging ideas, and that's the way to be in life. I mean, I try to be that way, and I hope I am that way. Anyway, as always, God bless you, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.